Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Two Cooks Talking. I am your host, Nguyen. I am not an expert on cooking, but I do enjoy doing it. I do enjoy food. With me, as normal, is Executive Chef Michael Weller, who is an expert on cooking. Say hi, Mike.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, so kind of want to dive in and try something. We did the first couple episodes covering pantry essentials. We kind of want to dig into more singular focus on ingredients. So today we're going to talk about garlic because garlic is, I think, it's a very common ingredient, especially in the Northern California area where we are, where Gilroy, California is a big contributor of garlic. They have the Gilroy Garlic Festival, so yeah, I figured garlic is probably a good topic to go over.
And ubiquitous around the world.
Yeah. Okay, so for most of this, I may just turn it over to you. I'll probably chime in with kind of my personal feelings on garlic. Well, I'll start off saying I'm not huge on garlic. I like a little bit of garlic just to give it a little bit of kick, a little bit of that garlic zing, but it's not something that I want overly in my foods. Like when I hear the Gilroy Garlic Festival, I hear there's positive things about their Gilroy or their garlic ice cream, and that sounds kind of disgusting to me. But I understand there's some people that probably like it.
And I think a lot depends on how you utilize the ingredient.
Mm.
I can't even imagine using finely chopped garlic in an ice cream. I mean, one of the things when you're talking about garlic is a range of potential flavors. Very often in different cuisines, garlic is used differently. The more you chop garlic, the more the cells in the garlic cell walls are broken. The finer you chop garlic, the more a compound called allicin is released, and that's the compound that punches you in the face. That's the really pungent.
Is it the kind of acidic quality you get in garlic, or?
It, the absence of allicin
Mm.
leads to sweetness. So
Okay.
to that extent, yeah, that very sulfurous kind of punch
Hmm.
is dependent on a couple of things. Obviously, raw is more potent than cooked, and more finely chopped is more potent than whole.
Hmm.
So, in many cuisines that are famous for garlic use, the garlic isn't even chopped. Northern Italian cuisine has a reputation for being garlic heavy, and actually is very subtle in their use of garlic, and typically throw in whole cloves of garlic at the beginning of a meal and take it out before the meal is served. Some of the areas where garlic is used more pungently, no one on the planet, no culture on the planet comes anywhere near production or consumption of garlic in the way that China does. Gilroy doesn't rate. The United States
Yeah.
doesn't come close to rating. It's an order of magnitude of hundreds, if not thousands, of times more garlic used in China than anywhere else on the planet. It's a tremendous difference.
I guess if we want to talk about the origins of garlic, I mean, it does. I mean, from what I understand, it stems from the Asian continent. So.
The western edge of the Asian continent, the
Hmm.
eastern edge of the European, in that great fertile ground for so many things,
Yeah.
in what are now the stans, those various nations in that region of the world, the western edge of China, the eastern edge of Europe, the southern end, right in the middle of the spice route, is where garlic originates from. But of all foods, it was carried all over the world, and planted everywhere anyone went. It's hard to imagine. There are there are cuisines that don't heavily rely on garlic, but that's mostly dependent on where it can grow. So really extreme northern cuisines don't depend heavily on garlic.
Some of like the
The
Scandinavian.
Scandinavian kind of
Mm.
cooking, they still will use it now. The world is becoming a very small place, but
Mm.
traditional Scandinavian cuisine not heavy on garlic because it doesn't grow.
Mm.
But types and varieties of garlic will grow just about anywhere else.
Okay.
So
I guess we can go into like kind of the mechanical parts of garlic, where it's kind of got this paper
mhm.
on it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's kind of like a just like
Paper's a good description.
yeah. Um, Now I know there's a wide array of ways to remove the paper, so you're left with just a clove. I know one of the fun ways that I do, as I picked it up from American Test Kitchen, is sticking the whole bulb inside two metal bowls and just shaking that
Shaking
for,
like crazy.
yeah, and it does a wonderful job. It's fun to do. Probably not the most efficient way to remove paper, but it works pretty well for me.
It's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
There's a oftentimes there's shortcuts to things. There are shortcuts with garlic. You can buy garlic that's already minced and packed in oil. You
Hmm.
can buy cloves of garlic that are already cleaned and ready to be chopped. Um, you do lose something.
Right.
There's just so as far as anytime I need more a head of garlic or more, I love the two bowl method.
Hmm.
And partially because it's just plain fun.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. It's a blast to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I I guess the more classical way is just using kind of your chef's knife and just using the butt end of that to just crush the garlic out of the paper, correct?
chef knife turned on its edge
Mhm.
or cleaver. I mean, one of my favorite chefs to see in real life and to watch perform on TV, Martin Yan,
Mhm.
and the things he can do with a cleaver
Yeah.
are real.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos of Martin Yan is his was it chicken in 4 seconds or
He does it chicken in typically 16 to 20 seconds. He'll
it's
bone the whole chicken out.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It's I think he cheats a little bit, right? Because he massages it and breaks some of the cartilage down, but
He does. So part of this is a part of Martin Yen, who he's a culinary deity. But part of his shtick is he'll turn his accent up a couple notches, and he'll make the chicken dance. And
yeah.
he'll do it as just joking around with a big grin on his face. And while he's making the chicken dance, he's popping the various joints out of place.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a good shtick. It's a good cover for the shtick.
Yeah.
Now, our friend Chef Alan Calhoun
Hmm.
has beat Martin Yan by 4 seconds.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Alan is unbelievable.
wow.
Either way, it's a tremendous feat and accomplishment. But the
Okay,
things
going
he
back.
does with the side of a cleaver, the same thing you do with the side of a chef knife. So by smashing the garlic, it kind of breaks it out of the husk.
Hmm.
And then another culinary hero, Jacques Pepin, will do the same thing Martin Yan will do. You then smash it again using the side of the knife, and then run your knife through it up and down very rapidly. You can, by moving your knife back and forth or moving your cleaver back and forth, pressing the garlic against the cutting board surface,
Now, for those
reduce it to
listening,
a
it's
paste.
he's kind of doing a sweeping motion. Is that right? Kind of a sweeping
Yeah.
motion with the blade.
You set the knife at a 20-degree angle
Hmm.
and push down into the board against the garlic
Hmm.
and drag your knife or your cleaver through it.
Okay.
Sometimes you sprinkle a little coarse salt on it to help pulverize it. And that reduces it down to a paste. Now, again, going back to the chemical level of things,
Hmm.
breaking the garlic down to that degree means the potency and the spike of the garlic flavor is going to be much greater.
Okay. And I noticed when you do that, it releases a lot of the oils too.
Hmm.
So I think one thing I like about the bowl method is it keeps the clothes relatively whole, so it doesn't. Then you can kind of manipulate it as you will. Whereas smashing it, you kind of using it to its fullest potential at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the classic uses for a whole clove, along the lines of the more subtle uses, is to spread it on the inside of a salad bowl. Is to take the whole clove and rub it against the inside of preferably a wooden salad bowl. And that just leaves a trace element of garlic behind, and then you toss the salad in that bowl, and it picks up a nuance.
Oh,
So
interesting.
garlic doesn't have to be in your face or over your head.
Mhm.
It can be more subtle. So, and again, leaving it whole and then removing it. At the other end of the extreme, with an actual clove of garlic that you have untouched and pristine, one of my favorite real garlic breads
Mhm.
is to grill a piece of bread over an open flame and then take a garlic clove and use the rough bread like sandpaper to rub the garlic clove.
I've actually seen something similar from Alton Brown. A huge fan of Alton Brown's. I watch just about every episode of Good Eats. He actually did an episode on garlic, and one of the things he did was he roasted the garlic in olive oil, and from that he just used that as kind of a butter to butter the breads. So it was pretty amazing. So
And then roasted garlic. So again, the highest potency of garlic is going to be chopped the most and left raw.
Right.
The least potent spike and more subtle, nuanced flavor of garlic happens when you keep it whole and cook it longer. So roasted garlic is something I could easily see being made into an ice cream. Roasted garlic becomes amazingly sweet, as with many food. Like an onion is packed full of sugar,
Right.
and you just don't note the sugar because of the other compounds. Garlic has a huge amount of sugar in it.
Yeah.
By roasting it, you're caramelizing the sugar.
Is it the same idea where like with onions, it's because of the pectin? I know from what I understand, it's the pectin that is locks in the sweetness, and once you break that down over heat and time.
Overheat or break down.
Yeah.
Same thing with garlic, and that is without a doubt ice cream worthy, and subtle and nuanced and just delicious.
Really? Okay. I'm not jumping over that fence yet, but
I'll
maybe
see if I can get you there. I'll see if I can get you. Maybe not ice cream,
Yeah.
like on the episode of Alton Brown, it certainly becomes then at that point a spread. Right? It's really hard to imagine around the world of cooking. The role that garlic plays is just so significant. It is my favorite smell. Bacon is close, but throwing garlic into a pan. When I worked at country clubs, one of the difficult things was to get everybody. We would have an event at the club, and members would show up, and they're members, so they do what they want to do. They pay a lot of money to be able to do whatever they wanted to do, and they'd show up and they'd drink the before dinner cocktails and very much enjoy their cocktails. But I had a crew that I was paying by the hour. I needed them to start eating dinner at a certain point, and you couldn't tell them to sit down and eat dinner. But in the kitchen, you could get a really large pan, very hot over the stove, and add olive oil and throw in a couple handfuls of garlic. That aroma wafts into the dining room. People sit down; they're hungry. So it is one of my favorite aromas in the beginning of any number of sauces from any number of cuisines.
Yeah, I think we were talking about garlic and onions just a second ago, and I'm still relatively new in cooking. I've only been cooking for 6 years or so. I mean, you've got certainly more experience than I have.
I had an early start.
Yeah. So one thing that I realized early on was I would use onion and garlic in my cooking, but garlic is less forgiving to heat than onion. So I used to make the mistake of I would start off with garlic and then add onions later. Now I kind of reverse that just because what ends up happening is I have just bitter, acrid garlic in my food.
There's no way to recover from it. It's
Yeah.
one of a very common fault in all kinds of restaurant level cooking. You burn any amount of garlic in a dish, and that flavor will come through. There's no getting rid of it. There's no covering or masking for it. You're doomed, and it's a hallmark of sloppy cooking.
Yeah.
For that very reason. So yeah, classically onions are added first.
Yeah.
And you treat garlic with care because it's typically chopped in French cuisine. It's chopped fine. There's a lot of sugar, high temperature. It's going to burn, and once it's burned, you're done.
Yeah.
There are very careful and exact processes involved in various cuisines where typically in a lot of Asian cuisine, there's a desire to get just golden brown. And that is a trick and a technique because you don't want to burn it. You don't want any edge of burn to it. But oftentimes an element of the cooking happens where it's lightly golden as the garlic. And over the 50 billion BTUs of a wok burner to get it just golden is a trick and a half.
Yeah, I was just saying, 'cause woks burn really hot. So,
Yeah.
but I guess I don't want to go into too much of a tangent, but the shape of the wok probably helps with that, where there are hotter zones and cooler zones, so you can balance it that way.
Someday we might even have an entire episode dedicated to the wok. It is a beautiful instrument. And in as much as we share a love of the America's Test Kitchen show, on a Western style burner, either gas or electric, it makes more sense to cook in a saute pan. Woks are designed to be over an open column of flame. Even so, a lot of technique involved in various wok-based cooking involves the use of the sides and the shape and the heat properties of a wok. So
Right. Okay. All right. I guess going back to garlic. So we can go into some applications of the garlic. I mean, you talked about using it in kind of using it on a bowl, a salad bowl, which I've never heard of, but that sounds actually pretty neat. Something I'm probably going to try at some point. What are some of your other, I guess, more preferred ways of using garlic?
I think right off the bat, aioli comes to mind. Aioli, a garlic mayonnaise.
So what is the? I know aioli means. I mean, it has to have garlic to be an aioli. What separates an aioli from a mayonnaise otherwise?
Well, interesting.
Okay.
Originally, an aioli didn't even have an egg.
Okay.
It was just olive oil emulsified with garlic.
Okay.
That's not a practical sauce. It's not a usable sauce.
Yeah.
So it evolved into a mayonnaise, an emulsion of oil. But going back to the original technique still has virtue and value. The way you cut garlic and the way you make a mayonnaise affects its ultimate flavor and texture. So originally garlic was done in a mortar and pestle, and that was a slow method. And by adding oil slowly to the grinding garlic, it affects the size of the oil droplets in the emulsification. And smaller and larger droplets of oil perceived differently flavor-wise. So an aioli is, in modern culinary usage, a garlic-flavored mayonnaise.
But classically, it's oil and
Classically, it's
garlic.
an emulsion of garlic and olive oil. Either way, it is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I love garlic roasted. I love garlic, fermented garlic, black garlic. Interesting flavor, and again, sweet and more nuanced.
Yeah, I've seen it used on cooking shows. I've never tried it, but I think
Given
it's
your own preference for
uh-huh.
garlic, I
Uh-huh.
think it'd be worthwhile.
Really?
And
Okay.
then
I do like garlic to be more mellow. So roasted garlic is something I really enjoy. Uh, Minced garlic, that's just raw. It's way too much for me, but
fair
I
enough.
do like the when the heat is applied.
All right.
Yeah.
So I will attempt at some point in the near future to get you into roasted garlic ice cream, but
Okay.
I'll leave the raw garlic behind.
Yeah.
Now, garlic also has undeniable health benefits. I think a future show might be a discussion of the impact of food on health.
Yeah, we touched briefly on the Pantry Essentials episode. I'm a little more skeptical, but I do believe there's some benefits. I don't believe they're not all like panacеas for everything. I think there's, but there are certainly some benefits. But I mean, garlic has been used for what millennia
Yep.
in China. I know it's used for all sorts of ailments there. I don't know of any particular ailments that it would help with. I don't know what you.
I don't. I'm not a subscriber to entirely to this holistic food will change your health completely. Food as a cure. I'm sorry if I have cancer, get me to a hospital and give me some Western medicine.
Yeah.
And I think that there's huge benefit to then in the recovery phase of that using food to apply health benefits, and in the much more valuable route of prevention. Huge believer in the value of food that way.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget food is where you get tons of nutrients and vitamins and things that help the machine keep going. I don't think like you said, curative, a little iffy, but preventative totally makes sense.
Completely,
Yeah.
and other benefits as well. I think there is, and I don't want to overly foreshadow a future episode, but there are certainly I'm certainly suspicious of the fact that I doubt highly that garlic will ever be found to be the cure for cancer.
Yeah.
because there's no money in garlic.
Yeah.
Right? So I have a suspicion about that element of medicine.
We'll save that for the conspiracies episodes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, let's dive into kind of your favorite applications of garlic. I know one for me jumps right into my mind is going to AT&T Ballpark. They have the Gilroy Fields garlic fries. Amazing. As far as I know, it's garlic, little parsley, some Parmesan cheese. It's got a nice little spice to it, nice kick. I don't know if that's from the garlic, but it's awesome. I love it.
I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that
Yeah.
because it lives and dies on that whole principle of garlic that you aren't completely
Right.
fond of.
Yeah.
There's no heat in classic Gilroy garlic fries. The heat comes from the massive amounts of raw garlic
Yeah, and
applied.
maybe there's a threshold where like if it's a little, I'm not a fan of it, but if it gets overwhelming, maybe I just become a huge fan. I don't know.
The magic of a ballpark
Yeah,
might contribute to.
yeah.
The classic French chicken with 40 cloves of garlic, where
Mm.
the garlic is roasted and becomes a background flavor to a chicken, is really difficult to beat.
That makes me think of when we went to a local Brazilian restaurant, the Churrascaria. I think Picanhas in Point Richmond for anybody listening and nearby. They have, I think it was a sirloin with cloves of garlic inside the sirloin, and it was really good. And like we were talking about earlier, it was just whole cloves, so maybe it lost a lot of its pungency because of that, but still kind of infused the whole roast with the garlic, and you can get those little cloves. They were dynamite.
Yeah. And again, the principle being it's not cut very much at all,
Mhm.
and it is cooked over time.
Mhm.
Both those things are going to mellow garlic out.
Yeah. Anything else you have on garlic?
Anything else on garlic? I think it's a vital component in salsas.
Hmm.
I think that element of Mexican and then Tex-Mex cuisine is important. Um, I honestly think more with heavy garlic usage of Chinese dishes than
Hmm.
anything else. A lot of time spent in San Francisco Chinatown, luckily with locals taking me through, and just huge amounts of garlic.
Yeah.
Again, nowhere on the planet does garlic have the usage it does in China,
Yeah.
and the very skillful but huge use for garlic throughout the cuisine.
It's actually funny you were talking about that earlier. Also, I mentioned it again now. Even though I said I'm not a huge fan of garlic, I do like thinking about it. I put garlic in just about everything I cook. But I'm very moderate in use of it. So I mean that's my way of balancing it out. Where I'll use it a little bit, and then typically in ways where the pungency doesn't overwhelm the food. So I just like it just a little bit, like just like a little dash of salt type of deal.
I
So.
think I lean the other direction. I love the salad bowl trick,
Hmm.
but other than that, I can't think of an application where I've ever taken garlic out of a dish before serving it. I like using large chunks of garlic. I like having the garlic turn up as a flavor burst. And typically, I'll at least begin to chop up the garlic because I'm looking for some of that pungency.
How do you keep garlic?
I keep it room temperature and dark.
Okay.
One of the things you're looking for when you're buying garlic is not a lot of paper coming off of the outside. It should be tight and firm and even shiny. Grabbing it should be completely firm. One general rule for buying just about any produce or seafood across the board, buying things, it's always a good sign when it feels heavy for its size. As food ages, one of the things that happens is it doesn't necessarily shrink, but moisture evaporates from the product. So a young, ripe, fresh piece of food, a crab right out of the ocean, when you pick them up, they are heavy for their size.
Right.
Universally, that's a good sign for things. With garlic, there shouldn't be any green.
Yeah. Over time, it'll sprout a little bit green.
It's what it's there for
Yeah.
is there
It's
to
a
make
root.
more garlic.
Yeah. It's a root, really, right?
It's a bulb with multiple new plants coming from each one of the cloves in theory, would produce a new garlic plant.
Mm.
So if you give it time, it's going to start sending out green shoots to start growing another garlic. I mean, it's that easy to plant and grow your own garlic. You
Yeah.
grab a head and you break the cloves up and you wait for them to sprout and you bury it in dirt with the green part sticking up.
Yeah.
So, culinarily, that green tends to be bitter and is often trimmed off of garlic. At the point in time where I have to trim individual garlic cloves, that gets a bit frustrating. So, buy it fresher, use it faster.
Okay. So do you, when you keep it, do you just put it in a jar? Do you leave it in a dish? Do you leave it on a shelf?
I have a dish that I typically fill with garlic,
Okay.
and it's not in direct sunlight.
Okay.
But again, it's kind of it's a situation where it doesn't often stick around long
Yeah.
enough, right?
Right.
So, like we spoke earlier about your love for red chili flakes,
Hmm.
it's not going to fade much because it's going to get used too fast
Right.
to have to be worried about that.
Okay. Um. All right. Do you have anything else you'd like to add in?
Oh, I think that's a good little garlic primer.
Okay. All right. Well, that's been episode 3 of Two Cooks Talking. I am Long Nguyen.
I'm Michael Weller.
All right, and we'll talk to you next time.